Welcome back to Alberta Primetime. The top 5 retirement savings myths. Our Monday Money panel does some myth busting tonight. And the flow of Alberta oil to China quickens. Are we at a new fork in the road? We'll ask Jane Alm. She's an investment advisor with Angus Watt Advisory and National Bank Financial. Beth Hamilton-Keene is a director and portfolio manager at Moore Investment Management in Calgary. And Shafiq Irani is a director and senior executive financial advisor with Investors Group Calgary. Welcome back to Alberta Primetime, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Beth, Calgary-based Cenovus Energy just announced it is shipping its first load of crude, about 250,000 barrels, to China. Does this have anything to do with Washington's decision not to allow Keystone, the pipeline from Alberta to Texas?
I wouldn't go so far as to say that it's directly related to the decision, but certainly it is an interesting development and certainly confirmation of something that we've been kind of anticipating for quite some time. A few things that are interesting to watch out of this is just the establishment and the formulation or formalization of the relationships that are required, obviously, to deliver and strategically deliver and incent new customers, which we're seeing now. The value equation here is quite interesting to watch because there's a premium associated with this. It gets them off what's called mid-continent oil pricing and getting them onto pricing that you're seeing now on the markets, a little bit better premium associated with that oil. And of course, the long-term strategic...
the Brent pricing out of London as opposed to West Texas Intermediate.
That's correct, yes. And of course, the strategic opportunity being, could this mean more fodder, more reason, more rationale as we go over the next 2 years for that Northern Gateway pipeline further development?
Jane, Cenovus says it's getting a good deal on this oil shipment to China. More to come. It can take advantage of the Brent pricing, as Beth mentioned. Also establish direct relationships with Chinese refineries. Also something that Beth teed up for us there. How much will export contracts like this one continue to come on stream, and could it mean really a shaping up of the competition for Alberta oil?
Well, it's actually a diversification of the competition for our oil. And we've been talking about this for many, many years in the industry is, yes, we've got our biggest trading partner to the south, but there's a lot of issues surrounding us shipping oil to the U.S. as far as whether it meets their environmental standards and a few other things. We need other markets in order for our oil to get the best possible price, which is what Beth is talking about. When we get the Brent price, it's roughly $15 U.S. a barrel higher than the West Texas Intermediate. So it's in our company's and our country's best interest for us to have customers other than the U.S. So the diversification is key, whether it's China or Europe or Japan or wherever. It's key.
It's good news for Albertans then. Shafiq, maybe not so much for consumers if it's going to push up the price of gasoline for all of us?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good news all around for Albertans and for Canadians. You know, Stephen Harper, just in the Economic Action Plan, he defended the Alberta oil sands and he defended sort of our exporting, because you hear a lot about a lot of different pipelines. Like you hear about the Enbridge's, the Gateway pipeline, the Keystone pipeline, the Mackenzie pipeline, but this one, they used a Trans Mountain pipeline that's been in place for a long time to ship just from Edmonton to BC. And if we can now export to China, it's wonderful all around. It'll help with job creation right throughout Canada. So,
Beth, Cenovus stock is up 13% this year. It's also announcing plans, thanks to a late surge in interest from Asian investors, for a 90,000 barrel per day operation at Telephone Lake. I mean, all good news. Yet the European Union, days away from labeling our oil sands as dirty. Does that singling out hurt Alberta, or does today's price surge that we're seeing today alone and some moves by some other countries, does it beat all odds? Can they label away and it won't matter?
I think it depends on the hour and the day that you ask that question. So really right now we're seeing commodity prices in general surging quite a bit. We're seeing some sense that there's some stabilization going on in the markets. Whether it's long term or not, I would hold out for before I could conclude on that. But more importantly, we're seeing certainly today see the news that Iran has preempted and is no longer going to be trading its oil with the European states. Of course, they've been talking about that for some time. time. So we're now seeing kind of some geopolitical shifts that are happening with respect to oil prices. And of course, that will affect oil in terms of the supply that's available. So all of those things bode quite positively right now for the next little while, these commodity prices being so high. The real long-term question in my mind is, how sustainable are they? How will they shift with the technological improvements that are happening, not just in traditional oil, but certainly oil sands and in a number of other places? How will that really all change the overall scene that we're looking at?
Let's just quickly change gears here before we go to commercial. The 2011 RRSP contribution deadline is, of course, February 29th. A TD Waterhouse survey is trying to bust some common myths about saving for retirement. Jane, number one, the odds are I won't live to 90, so I don't need to plan for my money to last.
Yes, you do. The odds are that you will live a lot longer than your parents and your grandparents. Statistically, we're living longer every generation, so please make sure you plan past what you think you're going to need. You do not want to run out of money.
Beth, myth number two, the best time to start saving for retirement is when you're about 40 or more established financially.
The answer to that one is absolutely false. You definitely need to start saving as early as you can. In fact, there's two aspects of that. One is the habit-forming aspect. So as soon as you're out of high school and have that income, start to save right then and carry that habit throughout your lifetime. The idea is that when you've paid off some of your debt and you have a higher income, that's when you can start saving more in earnest. But you need to have the habit begun already. And more importantly, you need that time, the compounding, and opportunity that comes with that compounding over time ahead of time.
Shafiq, number three, you need 75% of your working income to get by in your retirement.
Yeah, that one's true. I mean, Desmond Research did a survey of retired people's incomes and people working, and assuming you have no debt, it's about 75% of your current income to replace your retirement income needs in retirement. So that's true.
Beth, number four, the best way to fund your retirement is through the equity in your home?
False. Certainly there are lots of advertisements of different ways that you can get at the equity in your home if you haven't really been saving for retirement or really that's your most major asset. But that's not something you should be counting on as you plan forward for your retirement. A couple of main reasons for that is the illiquidity of the equity in your home. It's quite hard to get at that liquidity. You can't just on a whim sell the house, get the money the next day and go out and buy your groceries. So there's quite a delay going on there. That's right. And number two is the fact that you have to live somewhere. A lot of people have this common grand idea that, well, I'll downsize. Right now I've got the 3 kids, we have all the bedrooms that we need, but as I get into retirement I can downsize. Well, it's not a simple matter of, well, I only need 2/5 of the bedrooms anymore, so I can get 2/5 of the value and reinvest that into a new house. You don't get that other 3/5 back out. It's not quite as simple as downsize and you get all that capital out. You still need to have quite a bit of capital invested for long-term living.
Jane, myth number 5, you need to have a lot of money to invest in an RRSP.
False. As Beth said, it's best to start early. When you get out of high school, you get your first job, you have your first RRSP contribution limits. You don't have a lot of money, but you can put aside what you can. You have the benefit of compounding, even if it's just a little bit. You're starting to form those habits of saving every month, preferably. It makes it a lot easier so you're not coming up with a lump sum, but at least every few months, putting some money aside for savings.
All right. Well, next up, the top 10 most hated jobs. Is your job on the list? Alberta Primetime returns with that in a moment. Welcome back to Alberta Primetime and the Monday Money Panel. A new list is out, the top 10 most hated jobs from CareerBliss.com, an online employment site. It surveyed thousands of people to find the least satisfying jobs, and they are, you've got them, Director of Information Technology, Director of Sales and Marketing, Product Manager, Senior Web Developer, Technical Specialist, Electronics Technician, Law Clerk, Technical Support Analyst, CNC Machinist, Marketing Manager. Shafiq, a lot of IT and marketing professionals on that list. Are we underappreciating them?
Oh, absolutely. And I think they're having a challenging time. I mean, there's a big difference between what business knows and what science doesn't know, or what science knows. And that's that people need to feel more than just doing a job for money. They need to feel appreciated. They need to feel respected in the workplace. And I think that's one of the contributing factors on the IT side. People don't feel like they're making as big a difference, or they don't feel appreciated in their job. So that can lead to some discontent.
Beth, which Albertans do you see? Because in your line of work, you meet an awful lot of people. Which ones are happiest? Any careers stand out?
Well, I think it depends on the. I would not any particular career that stands out. No, I would say it's to do with the demeanor of the personality, the opportunities, and that's one common thing I found on this article was that the opportunities for growth stood out as being kind of a real detracting factor. So if there really isn't that opportunity to grow, to expand, and to do more, that really became a point of dissatisfaction. I would say though on the information technology commonality that we're seeing in some of these positions, that I think that there's a bit of a delay going on. That we're seeing investment in businesses require now that you invest in technology, that you've really moved up your IT personnel, that you've really kind of made that investment, but it's going to take a while, I think, for cultural shift to occur, and I think that's what we're seeing in terms of a disconnect right now on the respect side.
Jane, you're steering a son through university and all these kinds of choices. A little bit of both there, your personality as well as in industries maybe needing to reward and look out for employees a bit better.
Right, if you're looking for a long-term position, you want a position where you have room to move up without changing employers necessarily. You also need to evaluate yourself, know what you're happiest doing. If you're happier doing research than talking to people, then you don't want to go into sales. You want to stay in something you like. The other side of it is you don't go into a job just for the money, because if you're looking at a position and you're going, I can get X paycheck here or this lower paycheck there, you have to weigh where you'll get the most satisfaction as well and be appreciated the most.
Let's take a quick go around with our panelists and just find out what you're watching today. Beth, I know that you mentioned you were looking at commodity prices. Anything else on your radar?
Well, certainly the other interesting news coming out today is that China has indeed lowered their reserve requirements on the banks, and that is promising. That is a positive move out of China that will allow for more monetary flow. It's changing a focus from inflation protection in China more towards growth stimulation, and that's positive.
Shafiq?
Two things. Domestically, retail numbers are coming out on Wednesday, and Friday is the budget report, and that should be very interesting. Internationally, it's the Greece bailout package, the European Union. They're going to approve 100 or maybe deny $130 billion euro bailout package, so that should be pretty interesting also.
How do you use those kind of things, Shafiq, to serve your clients?
Well, it just gives you a little bit of 2 steps ahead. So if you're looking backwards, you don't drive as fast as if you're looking through the rearview mirror. You need some clarity about what's going on in the future.
Jane, what are you watching?
Watching Europe as well, and it was interesting to note that China and Japan have both said they're going to help the EU now to try to make sure that everything stays on side. Don't know the details of that yet, but they have said that they're willing, and that's good news. Also watching Iran and Israel, a lot of saber rattling there. You know, it would be particularly bad news for the Middle East if Israel decided to do something untoward towards Iran, because that would definitely get a response. And we've still got Syria ongoing. Syria produces a fair amount of oil, and with all the unrest there, you're probably not seeing that. So that's also aiding in those commodity prices going higher. So we have a lot of things geopolitically happening right now that are impacting the commodity prices.
Numbers-wise, does that get to be potentially too hot for Alberta to handle if the commodities keep going up?
It gets too hot for the world to handle. If we start getting crude oil up near $150 a barrel again, that acts as a giant brake on the economy, because it affects everything we buy. The price of the gas at the tank, the groceries, because it's being shipped in, everything that we do.
And then a plunge?
Not necessarily a plunge, but it will definitely slow down the economy. And we have an economy that's at least showing some signs of growth. We really don't need somebody slamming on the brakes right now.
Thank you all for your insights tonight.